Thank you. Thank you. Continue to help us to share throughout the show. Um, Welcome again to our program today. We are absolutely happy to have you here. I bet you have seen the topic for the day. Um, why is so important in what we're doing today? So our topic is deconstruct Nigerians colonial system to reconstruct a working system. Deconstruct Nigerians colonial system to reconstruct a working system. Nigeria is not a naturally evolved nation, but rather is a colonial contraption created by the British in 1914. And this is through the amalgamation of distinct and historical sovereign peoples. They created this artificial union without the consent of our people, which laid the groundwork for structurally imbalanced and conflict-prone entity. Since independence, Nigeria's colonial system has not been dismantled but sustained by post-colonial elites who inherited and preserved its extraction, repressiveness, and centralized structure. In recent decades, however, this colonial system has not been overtaken and manipulated by the Fulani, or has been taken and manipulated by the Fulani-led agenda to establish dominance over the rest of our people through violent conquest, through land grabbing, demographic displacement, and control of the state institution. In response to this existential threat, NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, emerged as the only viable and comprehensive strategy to deconstruct this colonial system and reconstruct a working system for the indigenous peoples of Nigeria. The Fulani conquest is not just a regional or tribal issue, like some people may think. Rather, it is a systematic effort to replicate colonial domination, this time around from within. They are using religion, migration, federal power, and security agencies as an instrument of conquest. As we are watching, there's the seizure of indigenous lands through open grazing, to cattle colonies and Ruga. They are weaponizing migration and demographic manipulation through repopulation region with foreign Fulanis. They have captured the security forces, the judicial system, and the federal resources to protect and expand Fulani's interests. There's also systemic violence in the name of terrorism, banditry, and state-backed herders militia. So as you can see, this is the continuation of colonialism. Though not currently by British, we know they are in the background, by those masquerading as federalists, the Fulanis, the owners, the true owners of the land, as we can see. So the Nigerian 1999 Constitution, fraudulently imposed on our people without their consent, is the legal backbone of this colonial system. And someone will say, why would I say that? Because it centralizes control over natural resources, land, and policies. It disenfranchises the indigenous nations. It institutionalizes the Fulani-led elite capture of the federation. It also criminalizes the right to self-determination and regional autonomy. Therefore, any meaningful reconstruction of Nigeria must begin with deconstruction of that imposed illegitimate constitutional order. So another person may ask, why is NINA's strategy the only viable pathway? NINAs provide a non-violent, structured, and internationally recognized pathway for deconstructing this colonial system. Here is how it will work directly to counter this Fulani conquest. Number one, you repudiated the 1999 Constitution by launching a formal constitutional force majeure in December of 2020, which declared the indigenous peoples of South and Middle Belt as those that reject the 1999 Constitution. With this strategic move, This delegitimizes the central command structure, which enables Fulani's conquest or dominance. It withdraws the basis for the union, thus returning sovereignty to our indigenous nations. And it sends a clear international signal that our people are no longer consenting to colonial governance. Number two, the regional self-determination blocks. NINAS has grouped the peoples of Nigeria into four self-determination blocks: the Lower Niger, the Yoruba block, the Middle Belt, and the Arawa block. The block structure reflects historical realities and ethnic sovereignty, enabling indigenous nations to reclaim control of their future, which is a direct antidote for Fulani's conquest. Number three, it transitioned into constitutional reconfiguration. Wow, that's a mouthful. So rather than a violence breakup, Nina's calls for an orderly transition through suspension of 1999 constitution, through regional referendums to determine the political desires of each bloc, through negotiation of new constitutional arrangements, or independent exits. This provides a peaceful alternative to bloodshed while still affirming indigenous sovereignty. Number four, they did what we call international imperative. They engaged the international associates and diplomats by invoking the United Nations instruments on self-determination and decolonization. They also invoked the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Why? This is essential in gaining international recognition and protection for indigenous nations under the siege from Fulani's conquest. And then number five, delegitimization of federal elections under the 1999 Constitution. Ninas called to halt no further election under this fraudulent 1999 Constitution, which removes the illusion of democracy and pressure that we can see is not leading us anywhere. We can see that under this federation, the Fulani conquest thrives under the 1999 system. Elections, like we said, give them the continued legitimacy to continue their conquest. So with the colonial structures deconstructed by Nina's pathway, that means that we are reclaiming our indigenous sovereignty. We are seeking for true federalism or dissolution. We are also seeking for resource control and economic decentralization. And last, peace through justice, which will end systemic marginalization and land dispossession that will end the cycle of violence. So this is not just a mere reform. It is a foundational reconstruction. So my people, as we pull up the video of the day, I'm going to have my sister add for you to swallow all the things that I have come up with during this introduction to understand that we have a viable strategy to exit the colonial conquest / Fulani conquest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my sister. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Very detailed, because here in this is community of truth and community of common sense. We put things together because we know things do not happen in isolation. So we gather the things, bring them together for our people to examine, and then we have conversation, meaningful conversation. Mind you, not beer parlor conversation, not conversation that people will just pull up ideas from their dream and then begin to put things forward. If you listen to that introduction, you see it's well detailed, well articulated. This is what happened, this is what we did, and this is what we're doing, and this is what it will lead to.